September.
They can't get the parts. Maybe China. China. Somewhere. All right. It's 7. You guys ready? Test 1, test 1. Good evening. I'd like to call the Ferrysburg City Council meeting to order. Monday, June 5th, 2023, 7 p.m., Ferrysburg City Hall, 17520 Ridge Avenue. Roll call, please.
Mayor Blease,
Here.
Councilmember Montgomery,
Here.
Councilmember O'Donnell,
Here.
Councilmember Kate, Councilmember Sias,
Here.
Councilmember Carlson,
Here.
Councilmember Murdoch.
Here.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd like to move to excuse Councilmember Cates. Support.
Motion support. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. 3, moment of silence. Please stand. I guess there's no invocation, so let's just stand for a moment of silence. Okay, now we'll do Pledge Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, number 5. Public comments. This time on the agenda for any citizen direct brief comments, questions to the city council. Time for public comments will be given when agenda item is discussed. If you have a comment or question, please raise your hand and be recognized by the mayor. After being recognized by the mayor, give your name, address for the record. Proceed with your comment or question. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Lisa.
Lisa Royce, 17700 Navajo. I guess my question's actually for Craig. How much money have we had to spend as taxpayers against Joe Lyons's attacks against Regina and all of this stuff? I've been to several meetings where he's attacked her, she's done nothing, and I know there's stuff going back and forth, and I know attorneys are at least $300 to $400 an hour. And I mean, he's on boards as a volunteer and as a taxpayer, you know, I don't agree. If he's got a beef with somebody, he should go after in the private sector and do it that way and quit using city taxpayer dollars to do it. So
I don't know off the top of my head. I can get that number though.
Great, thank you.
Any more public comments? Seeing none, moving on. Number 6, consideration for approval of consent agenda. A, approve the May 15th, 2023 City Council meeting minutes as printed. B, approve the mayor's proclamation declaring Ferrysburg a safe child city, and June 10th, 2023, a Safe Child City Awareness Day. First of all, I did notice there was an error in the minutes, and it is 23-081, moved by Councilmember Carlson, seconded by Montgomery. Approve resolution, city budget, appropriating the funds. Motion passed, 4 yeas, 0 nay, 1 abstain. O'Donnell abstained, but there was 5 of us here. 6 of us here, sorry. So it should have been 5 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstain from O'Donnell.
So 6 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstain.
No, because Bill was gone. Or, I mean, Jerry was gone. So there was,
Oh, that's right. Okay.
yep, Jerry was gone that
Right.
last meeting, so there's gonna be 5 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstain.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda, item A as modified,
Okay.
and remove B.
Okay, remove B. Okay,
Support.
motion support, further discussion?
Your Honor?
Yes.
I'd like to understand why you do not care about our children, want to declare Safe Child Awareness Day?
Yeah, so I think it has nothing to do with our children. I obviously, as one of the only ones here with children of children age, I want to keep our kids safe. But I have looked and found nothing, no such thing as Safe Child City USA. It makes me uncomfortable committing to encouraging other communities to do something that I know nothing about and that is not public in any way. Also, it says the founding of the Missing and Exploitative Children Network. I'm assuming it's exploited, but either way, again, I found nothing anywhere that tells me that that network or organization even exists.
I can tell you, it does exist. It does exist. Okay. You look on the computer and there's all kinds of things on the computer that talk about this. If we wanted, the last time this was brought up, we did have this a couple years ago when we had the when we discussed this. We could just take out the Safe Child City, but we did do this previously.
And previously, didn't we have a conversation about Safe Child City?
Yes, that's why we can take out the Safe Child City. But I still think we can still declare the Safe Child Awareness Day, and that is indeed a fact, a reality. And there are organizations out there that are condone this, and they are major organizations.
So what is the Missing and Exploitative Children Network?
That's exactly what it says. There's a network that talks about missing and exploited children.
So is it missing and exploited or missing and exploitative?
Exploit. Okay. There's a typo in there, so it'd be missing and exploited children.
Okay. Yeah, I'm all about for obviously keeping our children in the community safe, protecting them from predators. I'm not sure what naming the city will do towards that, but I'm uncomfortable approving and committing to things that I know nothing about. There's nothing in our packet about it. Maybe you could find it. I couldn't find it online, so.
I did actually do the research. Actually, my wife did the research on this. This is a issue that other people in the community have had problems with, but we did authorize, last time we had Cone with Cops, we did have it as a Safe Child Awareness Day. So if you want, we could just remove the, if you want to just remove the Ferrysburg as a Safe Child City and the city out of the Awareness Day, that's fine. But I think,
Again, we're saying in conjunction with the founding of Missing and Exploitative Children Network.
it was founded on that day, around this time of year.
Okay.
Well, are you okay with just removing Ferrysburg Safe Child City and then just say Safe Child Awareness Day? Yes. Yes.
I got a question. I was looking the same thing up because I had concerns about it too. And the only thing that we could find online was a Safe Kids West Michigan. That's through Mercy Health Partners, and it's a Safe Kid West Michigan. And they work with working with the community for like child safety seats. Teaching kids how to be safe with sports. Safety workshops, sports clinics, help parents and caregivers with their children. Children are, that's why we have a barricade at the end of Mohawk, was to make the kids safer, you know what I mean? So this is through Mercy Health Partners, and it's Safe Kids West Michigan. Holly Alway. So West Michigan has a branch for Safe Kids with doing things like that, and I'm not quite sure, but that's just what.
You asked, Will. You never, I'm not here then.
Oh. Will, would you be okay with removing declaring Ferrysburg Safe Child City and then just leaving June 10th as a Safe Child Awareness Day? Are you open to that?
Yeah, I mean, we're, I guess, making a proclamation, just, I'm okay with removing that. With the intention of making our community a Safe Child City USA and want to assist and encourage other communities to do so, remove that paragraph altogether. And then in conjunction with the founding of the Missing and Exploited Children Network, we, the city of Ferrysburg, do hereby, I would just put that last sentence, we, the Ferrysburg City Council, do hereby declare June 10th, 2023 Safe Child City Awareness Day. Why would I oppose what?
Junction with the founding of the exploited children.
Told you, because I don't feel
It's
comfortable
in the,
proving.
there is an organization that does that.
But all
Just
I have
because
to, all
Lisa
I have
did
to
not
go off.
find it,
But all
does
I have
not-
to go off, Tim, is what you tell me your wife found.
I also saw it as
I
well.
didn't find it on my own, and you
Well-
didn't provide any documentation, so I have no reason to believe this exists.
Your Honor, should we table this until we get some further information on the Missing and Exploited Children Network? Would that be
We
an
could. It actually, Blair, the owner of Alamode, actually brought this up to me because 2 years ago, we actually did have the Child City Awareness Day as the same day as Cops and Cones, so she thought it would be a good idea to do that in conjunction with the Cops and Cones same time. So she brought it up, and then this was the proclamation similar to what we used 2 years ago.
2 years ago, Will, you approved it.
I mean, we can amend it, we could, make changes to it. I can see Will's point about finding information about it. I don't have that information right in front of me. And then, looks like Tim doesn't either, but, I mean, he
I
could
don't,
get that
because it was previously
information, but,
approved. It's just changing the date.
And I don't have that proclamation from 2 years ago, but this is what it was.
I have a question for Councilmember O'Donnell. Is this a national movement or is this a local movement? And are there other cities that are participating in this movement?
This is a program that my wife has been trying to put together in association with other organizations that are similar in nature. She wanted to have something along the lines of Safe Child City. But that was not approved. But she is continuing to do work on this to see if we can get something like that started. Everything has origins, and this is her passion is safe children and how they're being exploited nowadays. And so that she's done a lot of research on it, and I don't like being questioned on everything that I say. I shouldn't have to have proof of everything I say. And last time we did have proof, and it was approved previously. And
I recall, Tim, you're correct. Yeah, I remember approving this 2 years ago. You're right. So you're changing the date from June 10th to the 5th of June? Is that what's going on?
well, it would be
Today's the 5th, so proclamation is
Oh, okay.
approved,
It'd be
but,
for June 10th.
yeah, it's for this Saturday.
If you want to remove the part about being a safe child city, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Is that a national movement on June 10th? I mean, is that a day that's dedicated
That-
to Safe
the-
Children
the-
Awareness nationally?
That is when the organization for sexually exploited children was founded, was on that date. And I couldn't tell you right now off the top of my head what year that was, but that is an organization that does exist, and they are out there trying to protect our children. And this is just in addition to that, to show that we support that effort.
What are they doing? What do they do to protect the children from being sexually exploited? Do they have any kind of examples, what they've done?
They have, I have not visited the site recently, but I do know they have statistics on children that are exploited. There are hundreds that are children that are being exploited every day that are not being reported. They are attempting to get movements out there and information to the public to report anything that they see. This is also, we have programs that have been initiated through my work with the hospital. We see anything, we are to report it. So they are trying to get the message out there and trying to get people to become aware of this and report it if they see it. It's very important. And then, like I said, there's hundreds of kids. For every child, they say there's at least around 50 to 100 kids that are not being helped, and cases that are not being reported. So, since we're doing the cops with kids, or cones with, and this would be a good day to show our support for this program.
I think approving it without listing outside organizations that we don't know about is still substantiating the fact that the city is committed to, not that I feel like we need a proclamation. I hope the city knows that we're all committed to keeping our kids safe. But I would support the proclamation. I just don't feel we should, I don't feel comfortable citing various networks that I know nothing about and was not able to find. If I wasn't able to find them, probably many residents won't be able to find them either.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but this sounds kind of like a grassroots initiative that you're in support of and your wife is in support of. But there's nothing wrong with that. But is that basically what's happening? It's a you're trying to nurture this and get it going, basically?
That would be nice, yes. But I think the message that we can get out there that there needs to be our children are being exploited and being harmed. The more we can get the message out there, the better. In fact, when at the last Cone for Cops, when I passed out the proclamation to the people, they actually thanked me and said, "We're on board with you. We understand that. We support this 100%." So I got a lot of thanks and no negative feedback from anybody that I talked to when I passed this proclamation out before.
But this is the same proclamation that Alamode emailed, correct, Craig? Do we have a signed copy of it anywhere?
I don't sure that.
My concern is I do remember having the same conversation specifically about Safe Child City USA, right? And we removed that previously. But obviously when we handed it out, it still had this on it. Well, it was on the one Alamode had, so. That's concerning.
It's concerning
mean,
that you oppose even supporting that we become a safe child city USA, or even the
how
grassroots of it.
how can I commit to joining something that doesn't exist, Tim? I'm not going to commit the city and our taxpayers to join something and commit to something that doesn't exist. Every organization that the city joins, and we use Tree City USA as an example, that requires a financial commitment from our city, right? I don't know what the financial commitment is for this. If you could give me an official anything from Safe Child City USA showing this is what the city's paying for, these are the requirements annually, and this is what you get out of it, absolutely I would support it, but we don't have that.
Grassroots effort that has been started. It's still in the works. And that's not the issue. Yeah. All I want is just the Safe Child Awareness Day. That's it.
Right, but I'm telling you how,
And if
me
you want- and you
personally,
sup-
I
and
would
you sup-
support it, and you're
and-
saying that's not good enough.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Take out the Safe City USA, or and just make it a Safe Child Awareness Day. I have no problem with that. But to totally strike it, I don't agree with that.
Want to see what I propose we strike?
So Will says the last two paragraphs, and then keep still, in the last paragraph, keep June 10th as Child City Awareness Day, or we can take out city.
Yeah. Safe Child City.
Yeah, he's okay with that? If we just,
You want me to read
Strike.
it, Your Honor?
yeah, if you wanna, do you wanna read the?
Sure. Whereas we recognize children are the most valuable responsibility and we want to create community awareness, that should be and. Whereas thousands of children are exploited and come up missing every day nationwide, 1,000+ a year cases of abuse in Grand Rapids, Michigan alone, and there are child predators in every country, and we want to assist the parents in protecting our children by making our community a safe and peaceful area for all children who are in our community. And therefore, I guess that'd be a period, take that and out. Therefore, we, the city of the Ferrysburg City Council, do hereby declare June 10th, 2023, Safe Child, I would just say Safe Child Awareness Day. Take out city because we're not a safe child city. This, the 5th of June, 2023.
Okay with that, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, further discussion? You guys okay with that? Jerry, Deb, Rich?
Do you want me to change my motion, Your Honor?
Yeah, you can,
So I would change my motion to approve the consent agenda with the,
for B, 6B.
well, with, as modified in, for A, and as modified for B.
Okay. And then Rich, did you support the first one?
I do.
Okay. All right. Further discussion. All right, hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, 7, new business. Hey, work session, Board of Light and Power. Greg?
At the last meeting, there were some questions regarding the board light power representation from the city of Ferrysburg. We have a couple representatives from the Board of Light and Power, the manager David Walters and the board president Mike Westbrook here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay,
So this came up in the Energy Commission or co-op that Ferrysburg has no say in anything that happens in BLP, but we have ratepayers that obviously utilize BLP. When the question was posed, it was said that, well, nobody's ever asked BLP to be involved in anything. But since then, we've had citizens that expressed interest in some sort of representation at BLP, which we don't have now, and I don't know the answer to that or how we get to that point. I know Ferrysburg residents obviously can't sit on the board, right? But maybe there's another avenue where our residents who are ratepayers could have some representation. Sure, that'd be great.
So Craig, during work session, can we have their feedback, the guests? Because usually work session, we don't have like public comment.
They're making a presentation to council.
Okay, so they can do that during work session.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a presentation? Okay, that's fine.
Okay,
Sure.
during the work session. Okay, got ya. Can you guys both state your name and address for the record?
Mike Westbrook, 423 Lafayette, Grand Haven, Michigan. Chairman of the board, Light and Power.
Dave Walters, General Manager of the Board of Light and Power. Our address.
Okay.
Has anybody ever brought this up before? Have other communities? We're not the only ones you represent.
I think the reason why it's becoming an issue today is there's a charter change being proposed in the city of Grand Haven to eliminate the Board of Light and Power, and in its place put an advisory. Right, so advisory committee would be open up to anybody essentially that the charter allows it up to. Essentially, wouldn't have any say on anything. Advisory. I think what you're talking about is they have a. I think when you were at the Grand Haven Sustainability Committee meeting, and there was people there that were suggesting trying to get signatures on this petition, and there was a discussion at that meeting about whether there's an easier way to get representation for some of our customers outside the city limits on our board, at least as an advisory role, without having to change the charter at all.
Right.
And I think I know of some people that have done that before. In the city of Holland, they have a Holland Board of Public Works. They serve in adjacent townships as well, and they have just added an ex officio member to the board. They didn't have to change their charter to do that. That was a matter of changing it. I served as the general manager in Zeeland for 20 years. We were trying to get additional input from our largest customers, so we formed an advisory committee of just industrial representatives. They had direct input into the board. Something like that, I think we could, we are just now starting to deal with this as well because of this charter commission, but quite frankly, every one of our customers has an opportunity to come to our board meetings every month, make their statements, and to the extent that they want to be an advisor, they're able to do that now. I mean, there's no limitation on, just like in your room here, there's no limitation preventing anybody from making comment. I think an advisory role, if the Ferrysburg wanted an official representative like an ex officio member, I mean, I guess we would. Mike's here as a member of the board. We want to encourage our customers that we serve to participate in the process how best they can. So I mean, we're open to suggestions, ideas, but in the interim, I guess come to any board meeting you'd like and participate.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for us to try to have an ex officio member from the city of Ferrysburg. I would like some clarification on the charter amendment. Would that shift the decision making to the city council of Grand Haven and away from the board?
The board would be dissolved.
So that's that's concerning.
And this new advisory committee would be appointed by the acting city council of the day.
Okay. Is there a plan for BLP to go to the communities you serve and share some background on that, or?
Well, you know, I
the
was just,
value of the board of,
I was just here 2 weeks, I think 2 meetings ago
Yeah.
and covered the charter
Yep.
change. So I've been going to each of our municipalities, kind of just letting people know it's out there. I mean, citizens are just gathering petitions right now. Nothing's official, it's not on the ballot. But of course, we're always interested in all of what our customers' input is. But yeah, we're out talking to other municipalities, always, you know, open to any type of correspondence at any time from our customers, especially the governing bodies or local municipalities, for sure.
what would the process be for us to establish a position, an ex officio position?
Well, Dave and I can't do anything
Sure.
alone. If there's general interest, we could
Sure.
take it back to the board. If you express an interest tonight, we could take it back to the board, have a discussion, and talk about how we could make that work,
Okay.
what it could look like, how to get fair representation, if it's a regular routine standing ex officio member, or if it's a advisory subcommittee of sorts. We've got a lot of different options, but it'd be board decision essentially.
That certainly would be a step up from where we're sitting now, and it would be light years ahead of what we'd be getting if the ballot initiative passes.
I'll keep my comments on the charter change to myself, but I appreciate your comments, Rich.
Well, being a customer for almost 29 years with the board, I would like to have some kind of representation for Ferrysburg. I think that would be important if we could do that.
Sure.
So Mike, were you done, Dave?
Yeah, I just say I would like the board to stay the way it is.
Thank you.
Mike, how many board members are they? And they're all vote-in positions from,
Yep, it's a 6-year term,
okay,
and there are 5 active board members at any given time, voting board members. We have 2 positions that are up this November.
okay,
So you have to be a Grand Haven city resident.
Grand
to be
Haven city resident,
city, not
okay.
township resident to be a board member.
Yeah, okay. Does Grand Haven Township or Spring Lake Township or Village of Spring Lake use Board of Light and Power services or no?
Yes.
Yes, they do, okay.
Robinson Township, Spring Lake Township, not village.
Not Village,
Not
but
Village.
Spring Lake Township,
And
okay.
Robinson Township, yep.
Yeah, but yeah, so it would be kind of nice to have representation from those other municipalities on the board, as opposed to just Grand Haven city residents. Like one from City of Ferrysburg, one from Spring Lake Township, one from Grand Haven Township, and then 2 from Grand Haven City, something like that. You know what I mean? Just because we're using services, it'd be nice to have
But that would be-
representation.
That'd be a charter change. To be
Change
a
a
voting,
charter,
to be a
yeah.
voting member. So
Correct.
right
To be a
now,
voting.
we're just asking to have an ex officio where we designate a representative for the city of Ferrysburg. And they can't vote, but
Okay.
they would be a member of that board or committee or whatever. They still attend all the meetings on our behalf, and lobby for the city of Ferrysburg or our residents, right? That are
Sure.
ratepayers. They just wouldn't be able to vote.
Okay,
And
that's
that,
correct.
I think, would still put us ahead. If the charter amendment passes, that responsibility goes to the city of Grand Haven's city council, correct? And there
Say
would
that
be,
again?
I said if the amendment passes, the charter amendment, the power would go to the city of Grand Haven City Council, and they would dissolve the board of
Dissolve the
Board of
board.
Light and Power, or the board.
And appoint
Um,
an advisory committee.
okay.
Again, it's probably not a good thing that we're speaking to the charter, because
That's-
I'm absolutely, I
Okay.
don't really know exactly how they're gonna do it, but I think there is some limitation on, I don't think every municipality that we serve in have an advisory charter change either. I
Correct,
think
but,
there's two, so I guess that's the question.
but the decision falls on the Grand Haven City Council.
Right, they would appoint them, right? And so they would appoint someone from the various townships. I would assume that they would get nominations or solicit some sort of interest, and then they would nominate from those people. But the city council would actually make that nomination. Now, again, I know how, like I said, I know how the city of Holland does it. But what they've done is they've put those ex officio members into their franchise agreements. So we have we're like a franchise utility in Ferrysburg and Spring Lake Township. So we operate just like, you know, a private utility in those townships. Now, I think what Holland did is they actually inserted some language about how one of their townships gets an ex officio member, who appoints it, all of that sort of thing. I think those would be the questions that we would have to ask as we go forward is how many will there be share amongst the townships? Do we all get one? Does everyone get one? I mean, how do they get appointed? How does the board approve or disapprove of it? Because I think the board would be appointing, similar to what the council would be appointing and the advisory committee. All of those questions, I guess, what we're here to say is that if you guys are interested in us pursuing that, I would suggest that maybe you write Mike some sort of entrance.
Yep.
So we can take it to the board, discuss it at the board level, and then maybe come up with some ideas, look at how other people do this, and then bring it back to the various townships and the city of Ferrysburg to see if we can somehow work this out. I don't think it requires a charter change, all right? I mean, I think that's the easy part of this is it's a non-voting member. It doesn't really change the structure of the board per the city's charter. So I think we can do that. It's a matter of whether the board's interested in doing it, and I can't make any commitments.
Sure.
Because I think if we get a request from you, we can consider it at you know, a future board meeting and present an alternative to potentially, as Rich was saying, that, you know, I think you're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater when you throw out the entire board just so you can get an advisory committee member. I don't really think that that's necessary. We can get an advisory type committee, and whether that's, you know, and then how we work that into our meetings so that we actually are using those voices in a manner different than just, you know, during public comment. I think that would be the other thing that we have to look at.
I definitely think we need to have a representative to the BLP. Currently, we have taxation without representation. On our recent power bill, we're an added charge. We're helping Grand Haven pay down their debt on their heated sidewalks, which we do not really benefit from, but they pass that cost on to all the customers. And I think that there should have been definitely a very loud no, we're not going to let you do that to our customers. We're not going to pay down someone else's debt. So I would, if we are, Craig, we are a franchise, right? Okay, so can we add that in, perhaps add that in our language, in the language of the contract? Or however I don't know how all that works, but that we could have a ex officio member appointed by the council.
Council.
I would like to see that, at least one representative.
Yeah, you know, I've only been on the board for a year and it's 9 months, I think, or 2 years in November. And from what I've heard, there's not been a whole lot of, you know, this is the first time this has been talked about before. New idea, but we're
I
happy
think what Tim said is part of why people are upset, because we're paying for Grand Haven's debt, which none of us really liked. We had nobody asking us. So if we had our own representation, it would help.
Gotcha.
And Mike, is just the city of Grand Haven, they're the ones that are gonna vote on the charter amendment? City Grand Haven residents, okay. Nobody else, okay.
We have no say in that either.
Yeah.
I think Mike's being a little modest here. I think what you need to know is that decision was not made by request from city
Right.
council to the board, and the
Right.
board was a split vote. And you did have representation there, standing right to my right, quite frankly. That did make some comments similar to what's being said. So the suggestion that we're operating without any representation, I think Mike has gone to all of the different townships to suggest to you that he does feel, and I as the manager as well, feel like we have responsibility when we do our customer satisfaction surveys. We send those out to all of our customers, not just those in the city limits, and we do provide an opportunity for all of our customers to participate in our meetings. So I think the idea that we don't listen to the township customers is, I understand it can get better, all right? But I think the idea that that the current board does not listen to all of our customers, I think a bit skewed, but we can improve it. And I think the idea that we're having here is one that we're willing, Mike and I are willing to come back to the full board. Yes, that doesn't mean the full board is going to support it. And quite frankly, I don't know how that's going to turn out, but other communities have done something similar, and we're fine with that. I think we have almost half of our customers, a little over half of our customers are outside the city limits. So that's point well taken.
That's how a charter's written.
The utility, the electric utility is not like the water utility or the wastewater utility share an authority. The electric utility is owned and was purchased by the city of Grand Haven. They sold the bonds. The bonds that financed the system were entirely paid for by the initially by the city and now by revenues. But the city is the one that fully owns the utility, and that's why they get a franchise to operate in your area's service. But the community of Ferrysburg, they have customers, but they don't have any real financial responsibility for the utility issue debt and cover that.
City underwrites your debt.
Correct. The city council is required to keep bonds that difference. And for the most part, when the charter was written in 1959, prior to that, we were just another department of the city, similar to what people are saying now. Prior to 1959, we were just another department of the city, and they also put other language into the charter to make us a bit more independent.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Revisiting the snow melt issue, was a real poison pill to swallow last year. And Craig, is that charged, or David, maybe is that charged by customer, or is that charged based upon usage? Is that a variable rate? I mean, what is the average person in Ferrysburg paying, the average household? So like $10 a month or $5 a month? This is for the Grand Haven snow melt downtown.
Right. So this is really, I mean, I don't want to get into a long dissertation on snow melt, and quite frankly, I think you're having two members up here that aren't really strong supporters of snow melt talking about snow melt. All right. So
let's just talk about what you're charging us for that, for that beautiful thing.
So the funding for snow melt, the operational costs of snow melt are 100% paid for by the city, right? When it started in 2010, the Sims plant was providing heat for the system, and for the most part, they weren't paying anything for the equipment. The equipment was already, power plant was already paid for by the customers. So what they did is they took heat out of that, and to the extent that there was coal burned for that purpose, we got the incremental charge and we passed those on to the city, but they never paid for any of the equipment in the power plant. When we were looking at building another power plant, it was gonna be much smaller, but we were gonna continue to withdraw the heat from that, but we wanted a backup system, right, the heat, so we put in just some hot water heaters. Those hot water heaters cost almost $1 million. So those hot water heaters were gonna be put into the power plant, and we were actually going to use those as part of the power plant. The old power plant had an auxiliary boiler as well, but when the power plant went away, there was no funding for the power plant. The electric utility customers couldn't pay for something that was not shared for with the electric utility. So that entire $1 million became a cost of the city, right? We transferred the equipment to the city, and they started paying off the entire $1 million. At the rate that they were recovering, it would have took a very, very long time to recover the $1 million. So there was a suggestion made and a proposal brought to the Board of Light and Power that they charge the customers of the electric utility 25%, of essentially a little over $250,000, spread over about 17 months. Primarily passed through to residential customers, half of which are within the city, half of which are outside the city. What we did is how we recovered that is we raised the fixed charge, which was $15, by 5%. So whatever that $15 is, 5%, that's what residential customers are paying for a period of 17 months towards paying off that I think it's $260,000. That's the best I can do off my head. I know it's 5%. I don't know the exact amount, but it would be essentially $15.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's just interesting to me that after they shoved this poison pill down our throat within the last year, now what is the city going to do when they have full control of it? What's going to be coming down the pipe that they're going to have us pay for? Any of the things I've read in the newspaper about what the financial situation of the city of Grand Haven, no wonder they're scratching for every penny they can get their hands on. In fact, they're debating about downtown parking fees. So.
Yeah, and none of this came up from anything negative that customers are saying about BLP. Just to be clear, it was just a suggestion Severance's brought up about having representation, and they didn't have anything negative to cite as a reason for it. Just felt it was the right thing to do. So I just want you guys to know we haven't got complaints.
I think it is probably one of the most popular elements of the charter change, and you don't really need to change the charter to accomplish that. I think that's the point that we're here to discuss with you. We think there's a better way to do that without changing the charter, but there's substantial elements in your municipality as well that's suggesting that that's a great idea to do the charter change so that they can get that. I think that's really what we need to be on the same page with, is I think we can get that done without necessarily.
I feel like we lose more control voting in a new charter. So, Your Honor, what is the process? Do we need to vote to ask the BLP to consider an ex officio member from Ferrysburg, or?
Just consensus, probably.
Yeah, consensus to have the mayor or staff write a letter to the BLP requesting that.
Any concerns from anybody?
No, I don't.
Do you think it makes a difference coming from city staff or the mayor? Will it help us one way or another? Do you want, would it help one of us to come to the meeting?
No, we've got a board meeting on June 29th, so it gives you a couple weeks to get a letter together. I don't think it matters who it comes from, as long as we get it. Dave and I will make sure it gets on the agenda. all welcome to come.
Okay. Craig, if you want to draft a letter, we can sign it, or I can sign it, or whatever, then get it over to you guys.
Thank you
Okay.
guys for your time.
Hey, appreciate your time.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Okay, 7B, discussion, take action if appropriate to adopt ordinance 328, an ordinance to amend the city code by amending chapter 154 zoning, section 9.20 zone district map. So it looks like last meeting, it was gonna be an introduction. We actually took action on it, so now we have to really take action now. Is that correct, Craig?
That's correct.
Okay.
So we're voting on the ones that were introduced last week for the zoning, correct?
Yep. Yes.
Craig, 328 is for the rezoning and 329 is special use.
That is correct.
And this is strictly for the property up on 174th here, north of Leppings?
That's correct. The rezoning is for the south 4 acres of the 11-acre parcel on the southeast corner of 174th Avenue.
Honor?
Yes.
I don't, Rich, you're on the planning committee. How do they, what's the consensus?
I think it's unanimous support by Planning Commission
Yeah.
on both the rezoning as well as the special use. We think that it's a great use for that piece of property. It's adjoining to a commercial property already. And it's a good use. We've got several others of these live-in, potentially live-in warehouse units in the city that have been very desirable for particularly people that live on the water and are looking for somewhere to store their RVs or boats or something like that. So we think it'd be a good fit. And it's on a major thoroughfare in the city.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay.
Support.
Motion, support. Further discussion?
Your Honor, I have some questions.
Okay.
The whole dwelling units on top of a warehouse just does not make sense to me. And these facilities are only supposed to be used for storage, and no company can operate out of these units. So I could understand if it was like a professional suite, but I don't understand the connection between the two and why it's needed, if that makes sense.
So a lot of people, they said store, I mean, they're high end, right? So a lot of people store their fancy cars and classic cars. A lot of people store their big boats. A lot of people just use it for their toys that, you know, they may have, that people that can afford those storage units have. They've been popular in other places in the city, in Ferrysburg. They're full, right? So obviously there's a successful business plan somewhere.
Well, that's actually one concern I have, because I drove past the ones off of Carmen, and there are businesses operating out of those storage facilities. There's a detail shop, there's a boat refabrication business, and they're not being used properly now. What's to make me think they're going to be used properly once we approve this?
Sure.
Craig, that is an approved use in that zoning, is it not?
That is correct. Light
The-
industrial.
That's correct. So that is an approved use.
When this
Now, realize
over-
this, not to interrupt you, Jerry, but
Yeah, go ahead.
328 is what we're talking about now, which is just the rezoning.
Mhm.
What you're talking about is the next item on the agenda, which is 329 for special use, okay? Not to get the two.
Yep, I'm kind of putting them all over you.
Yeah, we're covering both bases. The general theory is that for someone that lives on the lake, they've got to access now they've got excess space that they can allow family members to be able to spend the weekend in if they're coming and visiting for a family reunion, let's say, or something like that. Or like the fellow I work for, it's his guy's barn kind of thing. And they've got a full kitchen and bedroom if somebody wants to spend the night or something like that. Now, granted, under the use, if we approve 329, yes, could you have a painting company operating, or a wallpaper, or RV repair or something like that? Yes. Is that allowed in that use? Yes. The residential is just south of this piece of property that we're talking about, that's zoned residential. And I don't know how big that parcel is, but that home is, what, 100 yards away from this complex, Craig, to the south?
100 yards or 100 feet, I'm not sure.
It's quite a ways.
Yeah.
It's quite a ways. So it's not like we're going to be infringing on any residential at all. And we figured since it's on the major thoroughfare, it would be a good fit.
And we would still have to approve the building plan later on.
Oh, certainly.
So that's when we talk about where the building's located and the light pollution, if any, that they had. Or,
The site plan.
you know,
Yeah.
site plan.
Yeah.
So we would still have to approve that.
What they said last time was the units are 250,000 apiece. So they're not gonna have this, whatever. It's not gonna happen.
Right.
Lisa, you had something?
I just wanna show you guys quickly, this is my house, my old house on 816 Waverly, and this is how close they have it in Grand Haven,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
I was really sorry when this came up, because those used to be trees, this is exactly what they're doing. That was my old deck, I used to live there, and you can pretty much reach out and touch it. So, I think you guys did the right thing with the 25 setback. Okay, so, I mean, in the city of Grand Haven, it's just, that is a good spot. This is not a good spot, okay? But it is light industrial, it is a mixed-use zone. So, I mean, you have to deal with it with what you bought. So, I just think just to give you an idea, that's pretty darn close. And yours, the one that you guys are doing is different, and I understand your concern with, site plan and what they can use that for afterwards. As long as there's some type of barrier between, I think, I was at the meeting. Find out how. Because they're beautiful back, I mean, everybody would want. So, the 25 setback was a good thing during that meeting.
Okay. So we had a motion support, and this is for the rezoning from RG2 medium density to GC general commercial. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay?
Motion carried. 5 yea, 1 nay. C, discussion, take action, or appropriate to adopt ordinance 329, ordinance to amend city code, chapter 154 zoning, to amend section 2.20 to include the definitions of personal and commercial storage, suites, and self-storage facility, to amend section 4.80 to include special land use specific standards for personal and commercial storage, suites, and self-storage facilities, to amend section 9.110 to allow accessory dwelling units, personal and commercial storage suites, and self-storage facilities as special land uses in GC General Commercial Zoning District, and amend section 9.120 to allow self-storage facilities and personal and commercial storage suites as special land use in the light industrial LI1 zoning district. Sure.
So moved.
Support.
Motion, support, further discussion.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Along with Councilmember Sias' concerns, Those are some of the concerns I brought up at the last, the meeting, we discussed this. And the possible hazards involved and the safety issues. Someone stated that the chief was in favor of this, the fire chief is not in favor of these units. And the contractor, developer, when they did these sites over here, they were supposed to have them sprinkled, have the sprinkler system put in. However, he adjusted the size of the building to go down below what the code requires for a sprinkled system, so. I just,
Okay. Jerry, do you have any input on this?
Yeah, and he didn't violate anything with his last build. He still followed the requirements of the city.
he did not follow the what the fire chief wanted him to.
He didn't follow a recommendation
He changed it so he would not have to.
because it would be a recommendation, right? It's not a requirement. I mean, that's a recommendation. You got,
What he
I mean,
required was.
that's a $200,000 recommendation. Fire suppression systems aren't cheap. So he modified the site plan to make himself within compliance, which I understand.
Adjusted it so he didn't have to pay the extra life safety issues.
Sure.
It was not because he wanted to bring it in compliance. But
I mean, if it is still a life-saving issue for future buildings, maybe we should send that to the planning commission to work with the fire chief to reassess what size buildings need fire suppression. But I mean, we can't blame him for following what we put in place.
Yeah, I hear what Tim's saying. I mean, if, you know, you have combustible materials in there, flammable, all that, but what Mr. Cam said is you could have that in your personal home too. So I don't know. I see both sides of the story. So I want to support this because it's, you know, new businesses, you know, and hopefully they'll be in our tax roll. But yeah, I see Councilmember O'Donnell's point of, you know, the safety issue and fire suppression systems, but yeah, they are very expensive.
Your Honor,
Yes.
this development should lead into development all the way to the corner, don't you believe, Craig?
Yes, the developer is looking at an option to purchase the rest of the property.
Furthers the economic goals that we've set for ourselves as a city. So.
Just to be clear, these units could only be used for storage, not businesses, correct? Because I read in here that it.
Well, they're gonna go to
Use of any-
GC, general commercial zoning, so they can be used for businesses, because GC is general commercial.
But under zoning now, when we have to add parking spots and other regulations to
It's-
put a business in this.
Yeah, he's
set-
gonna have parking spaces in there. When they do the site plan, there's gonna have to be required parking spaces in there.
Is it 2 per unit, correct?
For just storage, it's 2 per unit. If there's gonna be a business in there, they're gonna have to follow the parking regulations of chapter 6 of the zoning ordinance. And all that will come before the planning commission and we would make a recommendation to city council.
So before a business goes in, it's gotta go to planning for additional parking spaces. If he's just gonna use it for storage, he has to have minimum 2.
When you're storing $1 million boat, I would think you would be very careful with where you're at with it. You know, really.
Yeah.
We're not talking, you know, nothing here. These are gonna be expensive units.
Yeah.
My opposition with
And-
it all is, I've seen these elsewhere, and they're not used for boats, they're used for businesses. There's another one down Old Grand Haven Road, by Whippy Dip, and
Oh, yeah,
they're
those
all
are
lined up with
commercial.
businesses in there, you know?
Well,
They're
and-
Those
not
are-
being utilized for storage, and that's my concern. And then you're gonna put a residence on top of a commercial storage unit, or.
And we do have some that are used for commercial storage. They have a business somewhere and use this as the storage facility for their business.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just opposed to having somebody living above a business, an operating business that can oppose, you know, fire hazards and different.
Said he's already got like, what, 4 rented? They're not even built yet.
I mean, if somebody wants to live at their work, I don't have an
That's what I,
issue
that's
with
what
it.
I would do ideally. I mean, if I wanted to start a business,
Sure.
and, you know, I mean, but what kind of hazards and personal safety issues does that arise? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, we have I think we're not getting at the root cause of what your concern is, right? If we have a concern about fire safety or fire suppression systems or safety in general, we should ask the planning commission to address that. But I mean, I don't know that there's really inherent risk of someone living above their workplace. I mean, people do it all over the country all the time. How many people have started businesses out of their garage?
Yeah, and I know in bigger cities, there's businesses and apartments on top. It's just, they have more control of what those businesses are doing. I mean, we could have industrial flammable
Sure, but
material.
That's
stored
no
out there.
different than starting a business in your garage, in your attached
Well,
garage.
it is because you don't know what your neighbor is storing and what you're living above.
Their garage, so.
But you're not connected, you know.
But we're
I mean,
not there yet.
Yeah,
This
right.
is not there yet. This is
I understand
before
that, but
that.
this is a.
That will be what the planning commission,
I understand that, but
we're talking tax dollars, developing more Ferrysburg, economic growth. That's what we're talking about here. And you could just sit there on that empty lot with weeds growing for the rest of your life. But why would you do that? It's a waste. Put it to good use.
well, that's another concern I have. Is this good use? How does this serve our community by having storage units on one of the most prime commercial parcels in the city, I would assume.
I mean, how long has that been for sale though?
Years,
Well,
years.
Right.
I mean, it can't be
Yeah.
that prime if it's
not
been
that
for sale for this long.
Well, yeah. And once we get these in place, we're stuck with them. We have storage units, you know, I just have a lot of concerns.
Jerry, I understand your concerns with, particularly when we use the phrase storage units. These are not really what I would consider a storage unit. They're commercial storage unit, but they're not they're high end. They're not 8 foot tall. With no power, or if they put power in it, then you got people living in it. These are much more high end than that. And that property is sat vacant forever. And we've got somebody that has got a financial plan that they feel is viable, that they've used elsewhere in the city. Craig, what kind of tenants does the developer have in the city already in some of those units? I know he rattled off a few of them when he was here.
So Straight Line, I think, had 2 or 3 units that they use. There's a
Yep.
roofing company that has shingles stored in one of them. That's true.
And he talked too about some of the homeowners that have got RVs stored and boats stored. And I think that's what Debbie was referring to. And so there's a good mismatch of different variable uses there. And it fits a niche, and it's something that's commercially viable in today's economy.
Grand Haven. It's off the water. My husband's ex-partner bought one, 200,000, and he has his boats and all his toys, and he goes in there and he works on them at his leisure. He's retired, And it does have a bathroom, and it does have a little room where he can lay down if he's tired. He's 75. He wants to have a nap, he can have a nap. They're beautiful. They're stone and brick, and they're well maintained, and I see nothing wrong with them.
Okay, further discussion. Hearing none, there was a motion support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
2 nays, 4 yays. Motion carried. 7D, discussion, take action appropriate to approve, not approve recommendation from the Rec Commission, approve the site plan for City Hall.
Your Honor,
Yes.
before I make the motion, clarification on something. Greg, would this be considered a capital improvement?
The project move forward?
If we move forward with this, would this be,
It could be, yes.
okay. Well, then under the Michigan Planning Act, Articles 4, Section 1253861, concerning capital improvements, I'd like to move that we send this back to the Recreation Committee for some changes. Any capital improvements must be submitted to the Planning Commission by either the it would be in this case, the Recreation Committee, or if it came from the legislative body, by the legislative body, prior to us for consideration. And the concerns I have with the site plan is it's missing all the trees that were graciously donated to the city a few years back out by the ball fields. The sidewalks being removed, which I would consider to be a safety hazard. People use those doors all the time, going in and out. Our tenants use those doors going in for whatever the tenants we have there at the time, the band and others. Also in emergency situations, it's easier to get emergency equipment in on concrete as opposed to dirt or grass. So perhaps get that put in the site plan. This site plan was updated according to the site plan October of 2020, so 3 years ago. This was, which if I am correct, is about the time that we received the initial site plan for this. And I don't see any changes. There was concern about the missing trees. So I'd like to send this back and have them.
Your Honor, we've talked about the missing trees in depth. Craig has even reached out to Relief and clarified our responsibilities. We are not moving any trees, if we remove any of those trees, they will be replanted by DPW. That doesn't violate us in any way for our tree city or the relief grants that we got. We wouldn't remove completely any trees. We would simply move them. This is just a plan, so every tree in here is not accurate. It's not that detailed of a plan to say that every single tree on here is exactly where the trees are now. We could, by all means, include a note about relocating any existing relief trees, if that makes you more comfortable. I don't think the Rec Commission would have any issue with sidewalks, but as far as a capital expense, there is no capital expense. We're just asking to adopt this as a master plan as we go forward. If that's the appropriate avenue to do, then we would take it to Planning Commission for that capital expense. But right now, we're not approving any capital expense. We're just approving to say this is our vision of what this park looks like.
Before it comes before city council, it has to go before the planning commission for their approval for this, according to the Public Enabling Act.
If there's a capital
No,
expense.
No. No. There would have to be money outlaid for this, so there's potential for money being paid for this.
There's not money outlaid for this. What do you mean?
No. But it is a capital improvement.
And when we get to the point of making those improvements, if that's the required avenue, then we would bring it to the planning commission. But right now, we're not recommending any improvements other than the city council adopting a master plan to say this is what we want our park to look like someday.
Fish, not a plan for now.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, we need something to work towards, right? So it would be broken into phases at some point, and those phases would need to be paid for. And when we're at the point to get a phase approved for funding, we would send it, if required, through the planning commission.
Okay. Then I would recommend that we send it to the planning commission for consideration prior to us, consideration by the council.
For what reason?
To comply with Article 4 of the Planning Enabling Act.
Article 4 requiring any capital expense.
Any construction in certain areas covered by the master plan approved initial work on a project, requirements, reports, advice.
Right, we're not doing any of those.
We are looking at this. This should go before the planning commission before it comes to us.
I don't think you're interpreting that correctly.
I don't.
Your Honor,
We need to ask the
can
city
we
manager.
reach out to our parliamentarian so we can move forward on this? What's appropriate, Craig?
Planning commission, there was something about that they get a copy of any capital improvement plan list in the city. So we could add this to the list and give it to the planning commission. I'm not sure, I would have to look at the bylaws and the act to see if it requires approval by a planning commission before it goes to city council. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head without researching.
That's my motion.
We can,
To the planning commission for their approval or disapproval.
So Will, your thought was because it's a recommendation.
yeah, we're not making any capital improvements. If there was a capital improvement and it requires us to go to the planning commission, then that's what we would do. But we're not making any capital improvements right now. We're simply telling you this is our vision for the future.
What's it say in that, Tim? Anything
We're looking
that's-
at approving a site plan. That's what the discussion, take the action to approve the recommendation from the Recreation Committee to approve the site plan for City Hall. We're looking at approving the site plan. It's not, this is what our wish list, this is not, we're looking at approving the site plan. The site plan, as far as I'm concerned, is not proper. It does not have ADA compliant.
Well, but that's a different argument than what you're bringing up, Tim.
Right.
So if you have
So
concerns
either it
about
goes back
ATM,
to-
let's talk.
Either it should go back to the Recreation Committee, or it should go back to, or if the council feels that it's good enough to, it doesn't need any major changes, it should go before the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission approves all.
Where do you, so now you're getting into ADA compliance, so let's talk about that.
No,
Where do
no,
you-
no, 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 no. I'm not. No,
You
I'm
just
not-
said that you're concerned that there's no ADA compliance, so
I'm
let's
saying
talk
that
about
there
it.
are concerns on us approving the site plan. Before it comes to us, it should all that stuff should all be covered. And that is what the Planning Commission is supposed to look at. By the time it gets to us, capital improvement should have all the stuff in there that we need, and all we need to do is approve the funding. It's not up to us to.
We're not asking for capital.
No, but it is a capital improvement project.
And when we get to the point of asking for capital and doing an official site plan, you can see on here, this is a preliminary master plan.
This is capital with an A, not with an O.
Could we change, D to, instead of approve the site plan, approve, recommended site plan, or, you know,
Approve the preliminary master plan.
just reword that, I don't know. Yeah, because I kind of agree with Tim, this is approving a site plan for the city hall, I mean, that's what we're doing here. You know, and
Right,
once
but
we
we're not,
approve it,
we're not approving
we kind of,
anything budgetary for it.
right, but it's still approving the site plan. Can we put approving preliminary site plan?
Sure.
Would that be more, and that leaves us that leeway?
Your Honor, can I make the waters a little more muddier?
Sure. The reason this was brought up, and maybe you're getting to this, Craig, was because we have someone that will pay for a baseball field, correct?
That's part of it, but the reason we want to move on, I want to talk about this a little bit. This is the current City Hall, north side. This is the bus loop. And you can see where cars park over here on the east side, and the daycare is over here on the west side of the building. And currently they park in this area here where the grass is. This is the site plan we're discussing right now. We see that it has parking on the north side, and they got 21 spaces here that are angle parking. So we'll increase the parking so tenants and users of City Hall would not have to park on the grass any longer. This summer we're going to be repaving Roosevelt Road. I asked the city engineer to draw up some plans on how we could do some parking. I gave him a copy of this site plan and talked about where we want to do some parking. Right here in the middle is where there's dedicated parking for the Sheriff's Department. He's proposing to put 9 spaces to the east of that, and a total of 9 spaces to the west, or to the east of that. And so this bottom portion of the dedicated parking for the Sheriff's Department would be removed, so all these parking spaces would be in a straight line to look aesthetic pleasing. And in the middle is the crosswalk. There's going to be a sidewalk here on the north side of the building. Students from Walden Green, when they come over, they'll go down the sidewalk, cross over at this crosswalk come into the building here. So the engineer put some estimates together for parking spaces to do with the street project. His cost estimate to do as proposed in his drawing is $34,375. To do the angle parking as shown on this master site plan, he's estimating at $126,000 for that.
Craig, what's the parking space differences? The 34,000 was how many? 9? And then the other one was how many?
18 spaces for 34.
Oh, 18, okay.
And 21 spaces for 126,000.
3 spaces?
Yes.
For
You
another
could-
90,000.
The site plan shows on the site plan for here, they show 26 spaces there. When he did his measurements, he came up a little short on that, and he came up with the 21. So here, estimate number 2 is 21 spaces. So the question with the city council is, we'd like to do something with the parking while the contractor's here in town, or parking on the north side of the building. Which option would city council like to go with?
When is that happening?
It's out for bid right now. We're starting the project in July, have it done before school starts.
So do we need to vote on that tonight?
I need some direction from city council, yes, on the parking at least.
I mean, I think it makes sense to go with the 34,000 for 18 spaces. That's obviously modifying the site plan, but we can give that guidance to the rec commission, does this need to go to the planning commission before we can approve it?
Part of the street project.
It's capital expense.
It's infrastructure.
You said it's not park or roadway, it is a roadway. Or, I don't want to pick and choose what, what we choose to follow, so.
Yeah, that's way more reasonable. So, okay. So can we modify D and just say discussion, take action if appropriate to approve, not approve recommendation from rec committee for a preliminary site plan and 18 spaces of parking for 34,000? Can we put it all in one or no? Dreamer?
I'll make that.
Are you okay
Second
with that?
that.
Preliminary? If we use preliminary site plan?
Yeah.
As opposed to an actual preliminary, all right, I can't make the motion, somebody's gonna make it.
Yeah, I just made the motion.
I seconded
and
it.
Deb seconded.
All right,
So that would be
somebody read it.
modifying.
Yep.
That would be, approve a recommendation from the Recreation Commission to approve the preliminary master plan for City Hall, modifying the north side parking based on a quote for 34,000 for 18 spaces. That makes sense?
It's an estimate, not a quote.
Okay, estimate.
Estimate,
An estimate.
okay.
I mean, it'll still come back for us to approve, won't it, Craig?
Parking?
Yeah, or the city, the whole road, the whole project. We'll approve a bid, won't we?
Yes, you will.
Okay, so just because we approve it today doesn't mean it happens.
The game plan is to make it happen.
Well, yeah, but we still have to, I agree, but we still have to approve it when the bid comes in.
Right, the
Okay.
city council accept the bid, yes.
Your Honor, I support that motion.
Absolutely.
All right, any further discussion on that?
Your Honor, I wanted to ask Craig about the ballpark.
We have a resident that is interested in donating some money to put a baseball field in the City Hall master plan as shown here, under the condition that the field will be named after his late grandson. Plan, is not gonna get constructed until there's funding available, and this person is aware of that. And his
So-
next question was, when he called me the following week, was, can you at least have a sign up there, future home of. Bring the sign up? Yes. I can bring that to city council in the future, sure.
Will the dollar amount be public knowledge or no? Is it gonna be a known donation? Right, but,
Everybody will know who it is.
right, but I mean the donation amount, I meant.
Well, we'll have to find, we haven't discussed the amount to
Okay.
donate it.
Okay.
Just to carry that on a little bit farther, we have a site plan that we're working on implementing for a fire barn park, and there's grants into that for that work. And this would be the second phase. If the grant's successful, then there's a third phase for the fire barn park. And to do the second and third phase, there's local dollars that gotta be matched. And then if you put, so that's a couple of years down the road. And then we try to do funding for the city hall. And we go out for grant money on that, that sign could be up there for 4 or 5 years before something moves.
Yeah. Yeah, recognize nothing will move quick and we have our priorities, but at least we want to know what direction we're moving in.
Okay,
Your Honor,
yes.
since this was contentious, this issue about whether or not this had to go to planning or not, many of us are taking the citizen planner or have taken it, and other classes that are available out there. Is there any way that we can review all city policies so we don't have to review it every time? Have the city attorney look into it or something to make sure we're operating under the law so that we don't have to question it here?
Yes, and actually the city planner and the city attorney are working on revising the bylaws to make sure that we're current and that we're following the
Good.
specific law.
So in the meantime, we'll operate the way we have been until we hear otherwise?
That's correct.
Okay, and then we don't have to waste any more time on questioning it until we get that advice, until that advice comes in.
Correct.
Very good.
Okay, we had motion support. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. 7E, discussion take action appropriate to place on the July 17th City Council agenda consideration adopt proposed resolution regarding lease and portion of the premises at 17520 Ridge Avenue, the Gateway Church, which resolution shall remain on file with the city clerk for not less than 15 days prior to consideration by the city council, and that a summary of the minutes of the June 5th, 2023 meeting, city council be published in the Graham Tribune. Yes.
I have a question for Craig.
Okay.
This is just a continuation of the current lease?
Yes, it would be.
No changes, no additions or subtractions?
Just the dates are changed.
Okay. Your Honor, in that case, I'm going to move that we place on the July 17th City Council agenda consideration to adopt a proposed resolution regarding leasing the portion of the premises of 17520 Ridge Avenue to the Gateway Church, and the resolution to remain on file with the city clerk for not less than 15 days prior to consideration of the city council, and the summary of the minutes June 5th, meeting of the city council published in the Grand Haven Tribune.
Support.
Motion support. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, 7F, presentation, Councilmember O'Donnell, citizen planner. Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor and council members. I recently completed the citizen planner certification along with the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I'm currently working on my master citizen planners certification. And one of the parts of that certification is to do a presentation before a council or board, and also take a written test. So I'm hoping to come back in probably a couple months and with my Master Citizens Planner certification. The topic that I chose tonight is the what I call Local Government 101. One of the topics that we're supposed to talk on is something that during the training that kind of sticks out there and would like to pass on. And I think this is kind of timely with some of the issues that are going on with the appointments to boards and stuff. And I thought it was very interesting that the first slide here is there are 3 branches of government in the city. I didn't realize that. I know there's 3 branches in the federal government, 3 branches in the state government, but there's also 3 branches in the city government. The first one, legislative. Anybody know what that is? Which branch, department that is? It's the city council. How about the executive? He's part of it. Yep. Actually, it'd be the zoning administrator, the planning commission zoning board. They are part of the executive. And we have a quasi judicial. They don't really have any court powers, but their decision is final unless it's appealed to the U.S. Circuit Court, and that is the Zoning Board of Appeals. Now, I did give to the members up here and some of the members in the audience our current setup in the coverage in the our city charter. And while the boards or the branches are covered in the federal and state by the Constitution, in the city, they're statutory. The council is covered under the Home Rule Act, MCL Act 279 of 1909. The Planning Commission is the MCL Act of 2006, the Zoning Enabling Act, and Act 33 of 2008, the Planning Enabling Act. And the Zoning Board of Appeals is Public Act 110 of 2006, Section 607.1, and continuing. Now you have certain common laws, rules, and focus. They're all covered by the Open Meetings Act, MCLPA 267 of 1976. The City of Ferrysburg Charter, Rules and Regulations. Major focus in all three statutes and charter make the decisions based on the rule of law, considering public health, safety, and welfare. Removal from office, only for misconduct in office, which misfeasance, malfeasance, and nonfeasance. All decision must be conflict of interest free and made in an impartial manner. The Legislative Council, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because as elected officials, we should be familiar with our duties and how people are selected for the board, but they're elected officials of the city, 1 mayor and 6 members. The difference between the 3 branches of the city government and the state and federal is that they are not equal boards. The city council is senior to the executive and quasi-judicial boards. And we'll get into a little bit later, we'll see why that is. The Executive Planning Commission, here are some of the acts out of the Public Act, excerpts of it. Michigan Planning Act of 33 of 2008. An act to codify laws regarding and providing for the county, township, city, village planning, etc. I do have a copy of just the excerpts, but you can go online and see the entire text. Very long, detailed, but it also covers townships, counties, public libraries. So I figured we'll just cover the city tonight. Next slide. The Executive Planning Zoning Commission. This act should be known as the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. Some of the definitions: the Chief Administrative Officer means the manager or other highest non-elected administrative official of a village or city. The chief elected official means the mayor of the city, president of the village, or supervisor of a township. There's the ex officio member. In reference to the Planning Commission, means a member with full voting rights unless otherwise provided in the charter, who serves on the Planning Commission by virtue of holding another office for the term of that office. The legislative body is the council or other elected governing body of the city. The Executive Planning and Zoning Commission is charged with maintaining the master plan, its adoption, amendment, and implementation by the local government. There are multiple purposes on this, but the next slide. There are some of the general rules, section 7, that pertain to the master plan. But I just point out here on item C, will in accordance with the present and future needs best promote public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, and general welfare. Article 2 is the Planning Commission creation and administration. Planning Commission creation. It's created by the charter. Local government unit creates the Planning Commission with the powers and duties provided in this act. And our charter does have the duties, and color didn't work on your copies, but I did highlight, and you can kind of see on the paper I highlighted some of the issues pertaining to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, the membership, appointments, terms, and vacancies are all covered. In the municipality, the chief elected official shall appoint the members of the Planning Commission and subject to the majority vote of the members of the legislative body serving. A village or city, township planning commission shall consist of 5, 7, or 9 members based on population. Members of planning, and then the Ferrysburg Charter allows for 7. Members of the Planning Commission, other than the ex officio members under the subsection, shall be appointed for 3-year terms. The zoning administrator is part of the executive branch. And have the 1 member of the legislative body or the chief elected official, or both, may be appointed to the Planning Commission as an ex officio member. So you can have 2 members or not more than 1/3 of the Planning Commission can be ex officio members. This is we haven't really concentrated on this when we've selected members for the board. We're more interested in just getting the seats filled and getting people that are interested on board. But it does require membership of the Planning Commission shall, and whenever you see shall, that means it's a requirement, be representative of the important segments of the community, such as economic, government, educational, social development, local unit of government, in accordance with the major interests that exist in the local unit government. And the memberships will also be representative of the entire territory of the local unit of government to the extent practical. The legislative body may remove a member of the Planning Commission for malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance in office upon written charges and after a public hearing. It acts as an advisory committee to the City Council. It is not equal in authority or power because it derives its power from the City Council. The quasi-judicial Zoning Board of Appeals, Act 110 of 2006, and it's an act to codify the laws regarding the local units of government, regulating the development and use of land. The short title, this is known as Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. The zoning ordinance, determination local legislative body, amendments or supplements notice of purpose of rezoning. And it talks about the legislative body's responsibility in amending and supplement and amendments to the zoning ordinance. The members are appointed by the city council and act as an advisory committee to the city council, again, subordinate to the council because they are appointed. We currently have 5 appointed members, 3 regulars and 2 alternates, and 1 ex officio. 1 member may be, and it's recommended that they be, 1 member be a member of the planning commission, but they may not serve as a chair on both. The recommendation on this is for conflict of interest. If an issue comes before the zoning board that was voted on by that person in the planning commission, they need to recuse themselves from voting on that issue. The only time that does not create a conflict of interest would be where the ex officio is voting on an issue twice. He voted on it as a planning commission or zoning board. He's a council member. He can also vote on it again as a council member. It acts as a quasi-judicial branch of the decision. The decisions are final unless appealed to the U.S. Circuit Court within 28 days of the decision. I'd like to thank you all. Thanks to everybody who serves this great city of Ferrysburg. There's names: Mayor Scott Blease, Mayor Pro Tem Timothy O'Donnell, council members Rich Carlson, Will Montgomery, Jerry Sias, Debbie Murdoch, Bill Cates. Executive Committee, Chair John Reifel, Vice Chair Regina Soberg, Council Representative Richard Carlson, members Richard Jonas, Sandy Tuggle, Heather Hawley, Jordan Weber, Zoning Minister, City Manager Craig Bessinger. Our Zoning Board of Appeals, Chair Michael DeWitt, Vice Chair PC Rep John Reifel, Council Rep Rich Carlson, members Joe Lyons and Mason Milligan. Are there any questions? Questions from them? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim.
And I do have copies of the full act if anybody would like one.
Okay, 7G, work session, city events.
Your Honor, at the last meeting, the City Council asked some questions about the process to have an event held in the city. And so we checked with the insurance company, and a copy of the response was in your packet. Basically, it boils down to that if there's going to be a city event with city resources, it should get approval by the city.
Okay.
What do we need to do for that, Craig? Do we need to adopt a policy?
We could do that, yes, sure.
How do we prevent this from happening?
It's going to be education, really.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, will a policy help?
We can include it to new members and when they get on board or something like that, sure.
I think there's some value in that.
So no policy exists right now on this?
Nothing written, no.
Okay. I think the people that were criticized over the hike should be they should be apologized to for the criticism that they received. That was inappropriate, saying they violated policies that don't even exist. And personally, I don't think we really need policies. There already one in place. We can't commit the city to pay for something without council approval. But if somebody wants to organize a hike, why not?
Well, the why not would be because our insurance provider emailed us back saying, in that situation, the city would be liable if something happened.
You know, I got to tell you something about insurance companies. Okay.
That you know better than them?
No, I don't know better than them, but I am familiar with them. Okay. I worked at an insurance company. They're going to say everything is liable. The job I work at, I have to fill out a report and tell everything that's not wrong with the patient, because if I didn't, then I can be held liable. Insurance companies are all about liability. They're not gonna tell you, oh, well, that's okay, you don't have to do that. They want money. Lawyers and insurance companies are in bed together, and that's a fact. Okay? Every time there's somebody is sued, it's because the insurance companies will pay. If there's a major event, yes, I think it should be brought to city council, say, hey, we'd like to do this event on city property. Is that okay? That's fine. But to actually have to say, no, you are required to do that, or you are in violation, no. That would if there's city funds expended, yeah, get approval. If not, let them do their event.
If there's liability by the city involved, I could certainly see why we'd want to get permission from the city.
There's always liability. There's liability if you walk out the door and you fall on the concrete. We don't have anything, and that, you know, that's all stuff that's.
But we wouldn't put on even concrete on purpose, and if there was a tripping hazard, we would address it, and that's what we're doing now, is we're addressing a potential, right? And if you read
We can't
what was
address
sent,
it. We can't address every single issue or thing that's going to potentially happen. None of us can see the future.
Sure, all we can
Okay.
do is do our best to protect ourselves from it. And this is what we're doing by implementing the policy, is doing our best to protect the city in the future from any liability.
You can't do that. That's impossible.
So when we get sued, and they say, well, you brought this up, why didn't you do anything about it? We say, well, it wasn't worth it.
If there is something that is potentially liable, like a broken concrete walkway, and we don't do something about it, if it has been brought up, then yes, then you can look at being potentially successfully sued. But if you're walking down the street and nobody has noticed that crack in the street, and they trip on it and get hurt, you can't expect the city to be liable for every single potential danger that's out there. We know there's fires, so we have a fire department. We know there's people that break laws, so we have police department. We have other rules and regulations that cover things. But I am so sick and tired of having to try and predict the future and regulate every single thing that's out there, and something that is impossible. You cannot legislate potential issues for dangerous issues unless there's known. It's just like it's like being bitten by a dog. A dog is allowed one bite. Did you know that? A dog is allowed one bite because the owner can say, my dog has never done that before. But once that dog is bitten, then that becomes a potential liability. There's risk management. Risk management is where you go out there and you live your life. If something happens, you deal with it when it happens.
Why we're here. It happened, now we're dealing with it.
What was the potential danger? What was the hazard?
Someone could have got hurt on a hike.
Yeah.
On a city-sanctioned, city-sponsored special event.
Okay. And somebody could have caught on fire. Someone could have gotten lost. Someone could have gotten run over by a deer.
You're right, and
Okay.
if someone comes here for the fire open house every year and catches on fire, we're probably liable for that too. It's the same thing. If someone catches fire at their house, we're not liable. If somebody gets hurt on a hike by themselves, we're not liable, right? But I don't understand why implementing a policy to quite frankly, keep all of us honest is so concerning. It's just saying that, it's a policy saying that no public official can make a city-sponsored event without the permission of council. And I'm not saying it was bad before. There was no policy. I don't agree with the way it went about, but it turned out to be a great event. I just want to avoid this in the future. And that's how we do it, is by implementing a policy to keep us honest.
Why do we have to, why can't we just be normal human beings and just be honest on our own? Why do we have to have regulation? Why do we
Because
have
it
to
doesn't,
regulate honesty?
it apparently doesn't happen, Tim, or there's confusion. I'm not saying that people do it maliciously, but it happens, right? And a policy would prevent that.
Honor, you know, if anything's gonna be labeled a city event, it should be sanctioned by the city. It should be permitted by the city. I mean, we can't just have people running around saying, oh, this is a city event, and then, putting us who knows what kind of, situations. I mean, they could do something unlawful and say it's a city event, and then what would that, I mean, how's that look back on us?
I don't have a problem with approving the events, but I'm saying you want to approve these events because of all the potential liability.
I mean,
Well, no,
that's a piece of it.
Yeah, that's a
And-
piece
and
of
that-
it. Yeah.
And it's already covered under there. We can't approve an event. We can't commit the city to anything without approval. It's already there.
Without an ordinance, no. Not there. That's what we're here to discuss. I think anything labeled city event should be sanctioned by the city. Whether it be through a committee, a commission, or city council, or maybe through the office.
I mean, we don't have that many city events where we couldn't approve them by the city council. If anything, all that does is further promotes those events because we're announcing them on our live stream. I mean, I don't see a downside for the city council approving and endorsing every city event.
Personally, just think it makes sense, you know, that, to cover ourselves and any kind of litigation. I know, Tim, we can't always see in the future, but, you know, we gotta prepare ourselves the best we can for it.
So Will, you're saying like any event could be the mayor's breakfast, 4th of July parade, could be the Coast Guard community picnic. You just want a policy in place for the city for their liability insurance to have under their umbrella. in
Yeah,
case
so,
something that does
so it comes to
happen.
the city council and we approve it. I don't think that's any extra work for any of us. I mean, we pretty much know what our events are. We could approve an event calendar, right? I don't care. It's just something from us, so we're aware of it and we're sharing with the public on our live stream, hey, this event is coming up.
Yeah.
Your Honor, there certainly are things that our agent, the city manager, could approve for city council that are city events. Is that
Yeah.
correct, Craig? You foresee that?
I could see that, especially if it's a reoccurring event, like the
Yeah,
mayor's
I could
breakfast.
see that, and that events need to be approved by our agent, which is you, right?
Correct.
Some events need to come through council, some events don't. Is that your judgment call? How you been doing it in the past?
Well, when we approve the budget, there's a spreadsheet that I show you listing all the events
Yep.
basically for the year, Monster Bash, Mayor's Breakfast, Community Picnic, and so on. And then city council approves those items as part of the budget and giving their approval to those events.
Then any-
Allocate funds for them.
So then any ad hoc special events would come to city council. Right, and it's, I mean, it's an easy vote. We just did a vote for, was it last month, for our food trucks, right? The rec commission is planning food trucks 3 times a year. We need a little money from the city. We brought it to council. We voted on it. Recreation commission moved forward, right?
And not to interrupt you, but a key point of that was it went through recreation first and then you brought it to council.
Yeah, I mean, every event should go through the appropriate board.
Correct.
You know, we have a little different because we have some that are run by the Beautification Commission and some that are run by Recreation Commission. I wouldn't be opposed to, you know, revisiting those boards and seeing what was appropriate, and maybe beautification becomes beautification and events, right? Yeah, but there are some that are run through, right? We run the Recreation Commission plans the Coast Guard picnic. The Recreation plan is planning the food trucks in the park event, and I'm not saying we can't partner, but maybe that would make this easier if there was one group that was responsible for events, and maybe it would make that board more enticing for a different, you know, group of people as well. And we can talk about that later. I'd be happy to have a work session on that, but I think we need some sort of a policy in place that it gives us a means of approval for special events. We approve all the planned events through the budget. I understand that. Any ad hoc or special events I feel should come through council.
Okay.
I think that's a standing event in our, what is that,
No,
in our
first year
budget?
we did it.
It's the first
Okay.
year.
First year.
There we go.
Oh,
Craig said it was
Debbie,
okay.
geez, come on.
It went through the beautification commission.
Yes, it went through
It
our
did,
committee,
yeah.
yeah.
And there was really no money involved in that.
Sure. So what is the next step for implementing policy, Craig?
Staff will draft one and bring it to city council
Okay.
for your review.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so then just, so I'm clear, if just a general citizen wants to do let's say a community bike ride, and it doesn't go through the city, there's no city monies involved, there's no city resources, then they can just do that on their own, right? And just notify the city to say, hey, I'm doing a community bike ride at point A, point B, whatever.
Yeah, I think the concern last time was that, you know, it did use city resources. It's posted on our city website. It's using, you know, the city manager. It's a gray area, I think.
Sorta. Okay. Alrighty. Let's move on. H, work session, 2023 city council goals. Alright, here they are. Okay, what was your thought, Craig? Just go through each of these and see if we're on task? See if there's updates on them or what?
Yeah, these are all the goals that were adopted by city council earlier this year. I put a little note under each one telling where we are with those. We're working on most of these. The last one, really, there's nothing we can do until Matt's gets their funding figured out, but we continue to keep working on these, and city council has done a nice job of moving forward with them also.
Okay. You guys have any comments, any of these goals? Looks like there's 10 of them. Maintain balanced budget, city infrastructure, economic development, safety, yeah, I don't see anything that's needs attention, I don't think. We're working on all of them.
As far as branding, we can probably switch our profile pictures now.
Oh.
We still have our masks. The Ferrysburg mask. It just says we're keeping it current, and that doesn't seem current, so.
Okay. All right, let's see. Moving on, number 8, public comments. Oh, yes, Rebecca.
Rebecca Happ, P.O. Box 85, Ferrysburg, 49409. Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem O'Donnell directed a question towards council regarding apologies. I was just wondering where that sits, Mayor Pro Tem O'Donnell, regarding the non-existent policy of City Hall, or that City Council has.
My understanding that there were some comments made to you about inappropriate behavior for the hike, and also and Mayor Blease about violating policy that did not exist.
That is correct. During the Recreation Commission meeting, I was falsely accused of violating city policy. And as of tonight, it's been brought to council that that policy does not exist. And I feel it's very shameful that elected officials would falsely accuse volunteers. Just want to bring that to the table.
That's why I
Thank
wanted
you.
to bring it up. And I think it is appropriate. Those who did, please apologize.
Okay, number 9, report, city manager,
No report?
city council members. Debbie?
Beautification Committee is working hard on the 4th of July picnic. We also are looking and hoping to get something in the works for landscaping and making it handicap accessible at the monument marker for Smith's Bridge. So we have met and talked, and we are moving forward with that. And I've talked to Craig in depth about it. So hopefully that'll get done soon. And to report.
Debbie, for the community picnic after the parade, have you thought about having a, what do you call that? Not a guest speaker, the person of honor or something that we recognize? Like last year it was the veteran and the military guy.
Grand Marshal.
Grand Marshal, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, we have one, a Ferrysburg resident.
Oh.
Retired Coast Guard. His name is James Butler.
Oh, James Butler. Okay, cool. All righty. Jerry?
I'd just like to say thank you to Walden Green and their support in painting the dog wall, out there in the dog park, the wall.
Oh, yeah,
They
it
did
turned
a
out
great
nice.
job, and I don't know, maybe the city could give some type of certificate to the students that were involved in that. They did a really fantastic job, and just wanted to give that a shout out. That's all, end of report.
Yeah, that turned out really nice, that mural that they painted. Will?
We have a energy committee meeting Thursday, right, Jerry? Thursday at noon at Grand Haven City Hall. The pavilion at William Fair Park I saw was painted. I haven't been there yet to look at it. But I understand that's done now, right? I saw them out there.
Yes, it's done. Look real
Awesome.
nice.
So I'll go out and look at that, but I'm sure it looks beautiful. That wood was pretty rough last time we were out there, so good way to keep our park nice. And we will also be having our first food trucks in the park event. We have 2 food trucks lined up, burgers and barbecue. We have some live music planned, so look forward to seeing everyone out there. June 21st, is that it? June 21st. End of report.
Okay, Rich?
Yeah, Craig, during public comment at the beginning of the meeting, you were asked by Lisa Royce about legal fees. And you're gonna be getting that to her. Can you also get that to all the city council members as well?
Yes, I will.
Okay. The speed bumps, are they installed, not installed? What's going on with them?
Not installed. We've asked the contractor to do it. We hope to have them in later this week or by late next week at the latest.
Okay. And I should just share with council real quick, I did fill in for Bill Kate today at the police commission, and that was quite interesting because there's a few hours during each day that we don't have a dedicated officer for Ferrysburg and the village of Spring Lake, and they're trying to bring some resolution to that. That was an interesting meeting.
Yep.
End of report.
Okay, Tim?
First off, Jerry, welcome back. Glad to see you're doing okay, and I know it's gonna take a while. Good to see you back. The Saturday Cones for Cops, the June 15th, I will be going to Lansing and attending the MML's Legislative Infrastructure and Information Technologies meeting. I don't know what we're gonna cover yet. We usually don't get our agenda till the week of the meeting. But I always look forward to that, meeting my fellow municipal leaders and seen some of my friends that I've made over the years from going to MML. I'm hoping that once I leave here, that somebody will pick up the mantle and go out and represent our city at these events. It's been a very eye-opening, very educational experience. I've seen the last two planning commission meetings, and I have been very disappointed in the way that the commissioners responded to the public. Person that slammed his fist down on the table and told a resident to shut up. I think that was very inappropriate. Yelling over each other. At the last meeting, joking about somebody. I don't think in this day and age we should really do that. That's not appropriate. Even though civility is not regulated, it's not part of the ethics. I think it should be always a part of the conduct during the session, especially when dealing with the public. I've noticed a lot of concerns were ignored. So that's all I'm going to say on that. I would like to see in a future work session an update on the bylaws for the Planning Commission. That's one of the things that going through the citizen planner, I realize we are woefully lacking on is bylaws for the Planning Commission. The pages we have for bylaws is 2 pages long, and when you look at what the MSU Extension, who does the training for the citizen planner, their booklet is almost 30 pages long. So there's a lot of stuff that should be included in the bylaws. And the Planning Act, Planning Enabling Act does require bylaws to be written for the Planning Commission, and does have some things that we are missing. And I will, that'll be my next project to work on, getting since Craig said they're going to be working on that. I'll get you some information on that.
Thank you.
End of report.
Okay, yep, the police commission meeting was today. Hopefully we'll get one other officer in this area soon, because we're down one the last year and a half. But they have spread out and they did a lot of fill-ins, so I don't think we lost any services per se. The next police commission meeting is going to be Monday, August 7th. Yes, Cops and Cones this Saturday, June 10th, 1 to 3 p.m. at Alamode. And then Craig, you mentioned something about Monday, July 3rd council meeting. If we're gonna still have that, that's the day before 4th of July. Usually we don't have a council if it's close to the 4th on a Monday.
There'll be agenda item at the next meeting to consider canceling the meeting.
Okay. All right, motion adjourned.